The storm hit Frostfall like the universe settling old grudges. Marcus Flynn sealed the last external sensor housing and retreated toward his cabin, fighting wind that turned snow into horizontal knives. 18-hour nights on this barely terraformed moon were survivable if you respected them. This storm didn't want respect, it wanted blood. Marcus was 50 meters from his door when he saw movement. Something was out there, in the blizzard, where nothing should be alive. His first thought was crashed transport, some idiot survey team caught in the storm. He grabbed the emergency thermal beacon from his belt and pushed back into the wind that was trying to introduce him to the concept of hypothermia through practical demonstration. What he found wasn't human. She was collapsed in a snowdrift, and Marcus's scanner showed body temperature dropping into ranges that made alarms scream. Young, maybe 20 in human years, with long swept-back ears that marked her as Ithari. Her skin should have been glowing with bioluminescence, but it was fading to gray that meant dying. Marcus didn't question why an Ithari was on Frostfall or how she'd gotten here. He just scooped her up, surprisingly light, her body shuddering with hypothermia, and ran for his cabin. The door sealed behind them, cutting off the wind's shriek. Marcus's cabin was small, prefabricated, designed for one person who preferred solitude to company. Now it held two, and one of them was dying. He worked frantically, drawing on field medicine training meant for humans but adapting as best he could. Thermal blankets, position near heating core. Monitor vitals through equipment struggling to interpret alien biology. Her bioluminescence began returning slowly, faint amber and blue pulses. Marcus hoped that meant recovery. His medical database for Ithari physiology was basically, they glow and have better hearing than you, good luck. She woke after 3 hours, her eyes snapping open with the clarity of someone whose survival instincts had just caught up with their consciousness. She saw Marcus, saw the cabin, saw the medical equipment, and her bioluminescence flashed red. Alarm. Fear. His cultural database was clear on that. "Hey, it's okay," Marcus said, keeping his voice gentle and his hands visible. "You're safe. You nearly froze to death outside. I brought you in." She scrambled backward, ears flat against her skull. You're human." "Guilty, name's Marcus. You're in my cabin on Frostfall. There's a storm outside that would kill you in about 4 minutes. You're welcome to leave when it passes, but right now, you're stuck with me and my terrible hospitality." Her translator caught up with his words, and confusion replaced some of the fear. "Why did you help me?" "Because you were dying and I wasn't, and that seemed like a solvable problem." Marcus moved slowly, giving her space. "You want to tell me your name, or should I just call you Frost Victim Number 1? "Lyssa," she said quietly. "Okay, Lyssa. You want some hot food, or do you need more time to decide if I'm going to murder you?" Marcus gestured to his small cooking station. "Fair warning, my cooking is mediocre, but it's hot and mostly edible." Lyssa stared at him like he was an equation that refused to solve. "You don't know who I am. Someone who nearly died in my front yard. That's all I need to know." Marcus started heating ration packs. "Everything else is your business." Her bioluminescence shifted to colors Marcus couldn't interpret, but the fear was fading. That seemed like progress. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, Marcus offered her food and asked nothing in return. And Lyssa, watching this strange human who lived alone on a frozen moon, began to wonder if maybe she'd stumbled into something rare. Kindness without conditions. The storm lasted through the night, and Marcus woke to find Lyssa sitting near the observation port, watching Frostfall's dawn paint the ice plains in shades of amber and rose. Her bioluminescence had stabilized, steady patterns of blue and green that his database suggested indicated calm alertness. "Storm's breaking," Marcus said, preparing morning coffee. "Should be safe to send distress signal in a few hours if you need rescue." "I'm not sure I want to be rescued," Lyssa said quietly, then seemed to regret the admission. "I mean, my transport crashed. I should contact survivors." "Were there survivors?" Marcus asked, too blunt as always. I don't know, the crash happened fast, I ran. Her ears flattened slightly. I just ran into the storm without thinking. Marcus handed her something warm to drink, not coffee, but a protein-enhanced tea his company provided for long surveys. Survival instinct. Nothing wrong with running when staying means dying. Ithari royalty doesn't run, she said, then stopped abruptly. Marcus caught it but didn't push. Royalty. That explained the formal clothing she'd been wearing, now drying near the heating core. He'd assumed diplomatic escort or trade delegation. Apparently, he'd understated. Well, Ithari royalty or not, you're alive because you ran. Seems like good decision-making to me. He settled into his workstation. I've got survey data to process. You need anything, just ask. Cabin's small, but the partition gives you privacy. Lyssa watched him work for an hour, her silence comfortable rather than tense. Finally, she spoke. Why do you live alone out here? Frostfall survey stations usually have crews of 5 or more. I prefer rocks to people, Marcus said. Rocks don't ask complicated questions. That's not an answer. It's the answer you're getting. He softened it with a half-smile. Same rules apply to both of us, privacy when we want it, honesty when we're ready. Her bioluminescence shifted to warm amber. That's fair. Over the next 2 days, as the storm continued its assault on Frostfall, they established a rhythm. Marcus worked, processed data, maintained equipment. Lyssa recovered, explored the cabin's limited space, asked questions about human geology and why anyone would voluntarily study rocks. They're predictable, Marcus explained, showing her crystalline formations in his sample collection. Billions of years of pressure and heat, creating something beautiful and permanent. No politics, no betrayal, just chemistry and time. You say that like you're comparing them to people. I'm definitely comparing them to people. Lyssa laughed and her bioluminescence pulsed with genuine warmth. What happened to make you prefer isolation? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Lost my family. Industrial accident on Earth. I survived, they didn't. Came out here because empty spaces are easier than occupied ones. I'm sorry, Lyssa said and meant it. What about you? Why does Ithari royalty end up in transport crashes on frozen moons? She hesitated, then decided on partial truth. Diplomatic mission my faction opposed. Some people wanted it to fail badly enough to ensure it. Sabotage. Maybe, probably. I don't know who to trust anymore. Her ears drooped. Being royal means everyone wants something from you. It's exhausting never knowing if people value you or your title. I value the person who drinks my terrible tea and hasn't complained about my cooking yet, Marcus said. The title is just noise. Lyssa's bioluminescence displayed patterns Marcus was learning, meant emotion too complex for simple interpretation. You really don't care that I'm royalty. Should I? You're someone who needed help. Everything else is just details. On the 3rd day, everything changed. Marcus's terminal received an emergency broadcast. All stations ordered to report sightings of Princess Lyssa of the Ithari sovereign house. Massive search underway. Significant reward offered. Marcus looked at Lyssa standing frozen near the heating core, watching his face, waiting to see what he'd do. He closed the broadcast without responding. Storm's breaking, he said calmly. When you're ready to contact your people, let me know. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Lyssa stared at Marcus like he'd announced gravity was optional. You're not claiming the reward. Were you planning to charge me rent for saving your life? Because if we're itemizing favors, this gets complicated fast. Marcus returned to his survey data. You're safe here. When you're ready to reveal yourself, that's your choice, not mine to make. People don't just ignore rewards like that. People are exhausting. I told you I prefer rocks. He glanced at her. Besides, you've been treated like a commodity your entire life. I'm not interested in being another person who sees price tags instead of people. Her bioluminescence cycled through patterns Marcus had never seen. complex emotions layering over each other like geological strata. She sat down slowly, her ears angled forward in what his database indicated was intense focus. "My transport was sabotaged," she said quietly. "Conservative faction opposed my diplomatic mission, opening trade with human colonies. They see cooperation as weakness, humans as threats. The crash was an accident." Her voice steadied. "I survived, fled into the storm because I didn't know if my own security detail would protect me or finish what the saboteurs started." Marcus absorbed this while preparing tea, his solution to complicated emotions. "That sounds exhausting. Want to contact your people now or need more time?" Lyssa laughed, the sound making her bioluminescence pulse warm gold. "You just learned I'm hunted royalty with political enemies, and your response is tea. Tea helps. Also, I'm not great with court intrigue, but I'm excellent at providing warm beverages and not asking invasive questions. I've spent 3 days waiting for you to recognize me, report me, or demand something in exchange for shelter." Her eyes held his. "You've done none of those things. Why?" "Because you're a person who nearly froze to death, and I had a warm cabin. The math isn't complicated. It is for everyone else I've ever met." Marcus shrugged. "Then you've met the wrong people. Want to tell me about your diplomatic mission, or is that private?" Lyssa spent the next hour explaining trade agreements that would benefit both species, cultural exchange programs, cooperation frameworks her conservative faction saw as capitulation. Her passion for the work was evident in her animated gestures, her bioluminescence shifting through enthusiastic patterns. "Sounds important," Marcus said when she finished. "Sounds like work worth risking sabotage for." "My mother, the Queen, supports it, but she can't protect me from everyone. Too many people with too much to lose if humans and Ithari cooperate." Lyssa's ears drooped. "I don't even know if my mission survived the crash. The documents, the agreements, everything might be destroyed. Or might be salvageable when rescue arrives." Marcus checked his terminal. "Storms completely broken. Atmospheric conditions are stable. If you're ready, I can help you contact your people." Lyssa stood, her posture straightening into something regal despite wearing Marcus's oversized thermal clothing. "I'm ready, but Marcus, thank you, for seeing me instead of my title, for giving me choice when everyone else just takes." "You're welcome. Also, your people are probably going to be extremely dramatic about all this. Fair warning." She smiled. "Extremely dramatic is our cultural baseline. You have no idea what's about to descend on your quiet cabin." Marcus activated the emergency beacon with Lyssa's authorization codes. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 4 hours, Marcus's remote cabin was surrounded by Ithari diplomatic vessels, security details, and enough medical personnel to staff a small hospital. The Queen herself arrived on a ship that made everything else look like toys. Queen Vayara was taller than Lyssa, her bioluminescence displaying patterns of authority that needed no translation. She swept into Marcus's cabin with royal presence that made the small space feel inadequate. "Princess Lyssa," the Queen's voice carried relief and steel in equal measure. 3 days. We searched for 3 days. I'm safe, Mother. Because of him." Lyssa gestured to Marcus, who suddenly felt very aware of his worn work clothes and the cabin's bachelor-level organization. "Marcus Flynn saved my life, gave me shelter without knowing who I was, treated me with respect when he discovered the truth." The Queen's eyes, seeing in spectrums Marcus couldn't perceive, studied him with intensity that felt like being scanned for structural integrity. "You didn't claim the reward," Vayara said. "Didn't seem appropriate to charge someone for basic human decency," Marcus replied. "You didn't contact authorities when you discovered her identity. Wasn't my secret to share." The Queen's bioluminescence shifted through calculating patterns. "You live alone by choice. You avoid people, yet you risked the storm to save my daughter. She was dying. I had a warm cabin. Everything else was just details." Lyssa stepped forward. "Mother, I want him appointed as my personal cultural liaison, someone outside Ethari politics I can trust for honest counsel. Marcus blinked. What? The queen studied him for a long moment. Then, impossibly, she smiled. Granted, Marcus's life transformed in ways he'd never anticipated. The Queen's security detail helped him establish a small residence on the Ethari diplomatic station while maintaining his cabin on Frostfall, a refuge when court politics became overwhelming. You hate this, Lyssa observed 3 months later, finding Marcus reviewing trade proposals with an expression suggesting dental surgery might be preferable. I don't hate helping you. I hate that your advisors use 17 words when 3 would work. Marcus gestured at the proposal. This could say, establish joint research facilities, instead of endeavor to create mutually beneficial collaborative frameworks for scientific exploration. Welcome to diplomacy. Efficiency is considered rude. Lyssa settled beside him, her bioluminescence shifting to comfortable amber. You can leave whenever you want. You know that. I know. Marcus didn't look up. But you're doing important work, and apparently I'm useful at translating political nonsense into actual human language. You're useful at more than that. Her voice softened. You remind me why this matters. When court politics make me forget people exist beyond titles and factions, you're here being aggressively normal. Aggressively normal. Put that on my business cards. They worked in comfortable silence until Lyssa spoke again. The conservative faction is still opposing cooperation. Some of the same people who sabotaged my transport. Mother knows but can't prove it without destabilizing the government. That's terrifying and frustrating. Yes, but we're making progress despite them. 5 new trade agreements ratified, cultural exchange programs launching, small victories. Her bioluminescence pulsed with determination. Because one human offered shelter without conditions, and it changed everything. I just gave you tea and a warm place to sleep. You gave me trust when I had none left. You saw person instead of princess. You reminded me that kindness without calculation still exists. Lyssa's hand found his. That's not small, Marcus. The following week, another frostfall storm rolled in, and Lyssa surprised everyone by requesting transport to Marcus's cabin. You're choosing to visit a frozen moon during a storm, Marcus asked, amused. I'm choosing warmth and honesty over political theater. Your cabin has both. They spent 3 days there while the storm raged, reviewing proposals, sharing stories, drinking terrible tea that Lyssa had learned to appreciate. Her security detail maintained respectful distance, giving them privacy. Do you still prefer rocks to people? Lyssa asked, watching snow patterns through the observation port. Most people, yes. You're an exception. Marcus handed her fresh tea. You and your aggressively complicated diplomatic vocabulary. I'm honored to be accepted from your rock preference. Her bioluminescence showed warm affection. You've changed too, you know. When we met you were hiding, now you're building. Building what? A life, purpose, connection. She smiled. All because you opened your door to someone freezing in the dark. Marcus looked at her, Princess Lyssa, third in line to the Ethari throne, brilliant diplomat, unexpected friend. Best decision I ever made, even if it came with ridiculous amounts of paperwork. The paperwork is character building. The paperwork is punishment for good deeds. They laughed, and the storm outside felt distant. Marcus realized he was no longer in exile. He'd found something better. Purpose through helping someone who needed it. Friendship built on mutual respect. A future he'd stopped believing was possible. Lyssa's communicator chimed. More proposals requiring review. More politics requiring navigation. The work never ended. Ready to return to civilization? Marcus asked. Ready to return to work, Lyssa corrected. This, she gestured at the cabin, at the storm, at their comfortable companionship. This is civilization. Everything else is just performance. They returned to the diplomatic station, but Marcus kept his cabin. A reminder that sometimes the most important choices happen in small spaces during terrible storms. That kindness without conditions can change everything. That opening your door to someone freezing in the dark might save more than one life. Months became a year. Marcus and Lyssa's partnership strengthened, built on that first act of shelter offered without knowing who she was. They navigated political complexities together, her brilliance and his blunt honesty creating unexpected synergy. And when storms came, political or literal, they returned to Frostfall, to the cabin where it all began, drinking tea and remembering that sometimes the greatest transformations start with the simplest choice: helping someone who needs it, expecting nothing in return.